Hey, folks, welcome to another edition of Broken Brains with your host, Bruce Parkman, sponsored by the Mac Parkman Foundation, where we look at the issues of repetitive brain trauma, whether it's repetitive head impacts from contact sports or repetitive blast exposure for our military veterans. And we look what these impacts are doing to the brains of our veterans, kids, and athletes, and the outgoing torrent of mental illness that's affecting our society and up to the point of suicidality. And the reason is these issues are not understood. They're not trained, and they're poorly understood by stakeholders in our children's and athletes' lives, wives, mothers, kids, as well as our military veterans and spouses. So every time we're out there, we're looking for advocates and researchers and scientists and authors, journalists, patients, and fathers and mothers of children that are no longer here to talk to you about these issues and how they're impacting, how they've impacted them, and how they could be impacting you, and you might not even know it, because you must be informed. That's the whole purpose of this whole podcast, is to get you informed on these issues so you can make better choices for you, yourself, your kids, and your loved ones. Today, we have a remarkable young lady, Miss Alexis or Lexi Alston, and she's attending JMU University up there in the state of Virginia. She's currently a senior pre-medical student aspiring to continue her medical education in Boston as she works towards her goal of becoming a family medicine physician. Since the age of 16, she's been actively involved in CTE research and awareness, with a particular focus on the intersectionality of Black athletes and their heightened risk of CTE. Lexi is passionate about spreading awareness and bringing this knowledge back to her home community. In her free time, she loves to attend rock concerts, going for runs, and spending quality time with her pet cat, Keith. That's a pretty unique name for a cat. So, is Alexi okay, or Alexis? What do you want?
No, Lexi is great. Lexi's
All
great.
right, so Alexi, welcome to the show, and give us some background, because I think I remember you from our conference last year.
Hi, Bruce. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited and passionate just to be able to talk to you and really just spread awareness. As my bio said, and thank you so much for that introduction, I've been passionate about CTE since a high school project, my junior year of high school, where I discovered it for a psychology class. And I was talking to some of the football players from my high school, and I'm thinking, a lot of them kind of line up with these symptoms. This just isn't right. And then moving forward, when I went to as my time passed at JMU, being able to really understand what CTE is and what it looks like, and then I was doing the data for actually the research that I was able to present last year in Tampa at the conference, and I was thinking this isn't really something that's being talked about, and I was kind of looking for where the Black athletes are. I was really looking for where that gap is, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm scrolling to the end of the Google page. Okay, where's the rest of it? And there was no rest of it. And so just kind of spreading awareness to a gap and a specific group of people that seem to be impacted a little bit more, but not really talked about as much. That just kind of is part of my why when it comes to medicine. And so moving forward, becoming a family medicine physician where I can really just make an impact starting at a very young age in those players and my patients that may have a concussion. I think that's just what I'm here on earth to do. And I just thank you guys so much for giving me this platform to continue just talking about and just spread awareness to those who really need it the most. So
Absolutely. No, and I think it's fascinating that you became involved with such a complex subject at at an early age and decided to follow this, because I'm 63 and I'm just starting to figure out what my purpose is. Actually, I'm 62. My wife tells me I exaggerate a little bit, but I'm starting just figuring out what my purpose is. So, I mean, your passion is obviously about athletes of the African American race. And why do you feel that they're more disproportionately affected than other nationalities?
I mean, starting off, it all can go back to systemic racism. Something that's always been kind of an underlying topic when it comes to just America as a whole, but really looking into it, I feel like there's a variety of factors that goes into play. I recently just finished my senior capstone that really talks about these topics, specifically with high school and collegiate football players, and a player's socioeconomic background, whether they're the first one, in their family to go to college, and they come from a lower background, lower, economic class, which means they have to play football because it has to help them get to the next level, or even, on the NFL level, they have to keep playing, not just because this is their passion, but because it helps out their family at home and it's their only way to making it out. I mean, talk to these players and knowing them personally. Football gave them a male figure, a male role model in their life that they may have been lacking. I mean, football also gave them a place instead of therapy. They would go to the field and take their, frustrations out there, or just a sense of camaraderie and a sense of belonging. I mean, there's a lot that goes into play. I mean, it all goes back down to racism, but I mean, the bottom line is they're playing more football because they have to, and not because they want to, but they're playing more football as a way to survive. And of course, we all know that more football exposure and more playing time, unfortunately, leads those hits, those concussions over that extended period of time, which does increase their CTE risk later on in their
No, that's a
career. So
very no, that's a very good point. Now, so your point is not that as Africans versus other like football affects them all the same. That's not the
yeah,
point. But your point is because of the socioeconomic disadvantages that a lot of African Americans come from, that they see football as a way out, and that is
exactly.
that's a very very poignant point when we talk about this, because we wrestle with this a lot, at the foundation, because it shouldn't be so, and that is, I think, more or less, it's kind of to me, it's more of a less a myth that's propagated that, and I think it denigrates our African American population. Like, oh, you can't be a doctor, you can't be a nurse, you can't be this, you have to go play football. And I don't agree with that at all. I think a lot of these young men are coerced or pushed into this, maybe by their parents, maybe by society, and maybe by the bling. The bling. Hey, man, if you're walking around, Deion Sanders' son's driving around a $600,000 Bentley truck, right? I mean, there's some, who doesn't want this lifestyle, right?
Exactly.
But to your
Exactly.
point, I think that there is pressure put on these young men to go the football route and to stay there when they're no longer interested or passionate about the sport.
Exactly. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. I mean, it's very rare that, we see Black male athletes in, the safer sports, the swimming, the tennis, the sports where there's less, the baseball even. I mean, even though we have Black baseball greats, it's very rare that you see a lot of Black players be rising to stardom when it comes to the MLB versus the NFL or NBA. And a lot of times that comes from, again, where these Black players come from, where their homes are. Because I know for me, at least in my school district, I mean, the only two sports that you could count on for certain were basketball and football. Other than that, there was a very low chance for them to get out and play. And even, with basketball and football, or even football specifically, you'd have to go and pay for these expensive camps, and it adds up a lot. And a lot of times, the parents don't have this money for that, or they can't afford to take off work to go and like introduce their kids to other avenues and other athletic avenues. I mean, one example of this, who is very much the exception, that really stands out to me, is the former NFL player, Dr. Myron Rolle. I mean, he played at FSU, and he had a very, brief stint in the NFL, but he was also a Rhodes Scholar when he was in college. And so it's possible out there and now he's a neurosurgeon, and it's possible for, players to thrive academically and athletically, especially in the sport of football. But it's very much Myron Rolle, once in a lifetime, dime a dozen kind of thing. And I think, part of the Mac Parkman Foundation, why we're even having this conversation, so that that can stop being such an abnormality. It can slowly become the norm, and it's going to take time. But I know it's possible. It's just getting the education out there, really.
I often think that, like here in Manatee County, we converted the local police activity league from tackle to flag. And, we discussed, and of course, a lot of parents are kind of fired up. But, we found out that flag football is not available here in our inner city, that it's out in the suburbs where,
Yeah.
indigenous, economically challenged populations, and these are largely Latino, African
Mm.
Black, and there's a lot of challenged white populations here in our
Mhm.
town here in Florida, but they can't get out there. They don't
Yeah.
have bus service. They don't have, vehicles. They can't, just go out there and look. Yet tackle football, they're teaching boxing to these children. 8-year-olds are boxing. And that's another big problem, especially with in our socioeconomic. That's another sport that's promoted to heavily minority communities, right? I mean, as a way out of the hood. Yet we're punching these kids in the head, and I think you're on to a huge problem here, and because I feel it's grooming, I feel it's targeting. I feel that we are being made to accept the fact that that our ethnic minorities have this only way out. And I hear it
Mhm.
over and over again. And I constantly tell people, I said, you are denigrating your child. If you do not think that that kid can be a doctor, and we have so many programs to get loans, to get up there, you don't have to be wealthy to go to school anymore. Okay. You just, have to desire like you did, right? I mean, you chose the path of a physician, right?
Yeah.
And what's your background, if I may
I
ask?
mean, my background, I'm a first generation college student. Neither of my parents went to college. My parents went straight from high school to the workforce. I am a triplet, so I have two other twin sisters that are also in college. And my parents worked very hard. I mean, 20 something years working, in the manufacturing industry to be able to provide for us. But I am at JMU on scholarship. I know I would not be able to. My twins, we would not be able to go to school, especially three kids at the same time without scholarship. And I do have an older sister, and she was able to graduate college, but again, she had loans and scholarships. And my high school back home, I mean, it was predominantly black. And when I say it was 99.8% black, it was all black students.
That's very
I
black.
mean, and that very, very black. And then the football team, predominantly black. We had our one white quarterback, but all black football team. And then all four schools in my school district back home, this very similar demographics. I mean, we were not, and I love that is my hometown. Shout out the Hampton Roads, shout out Hampton, Virginia,
Nice.
seven
Oh, Hampton
five.
Roads. Yeah.
But but I mean, I saw it firsthand, and that is why I am so passionate about it, because I mean, they're telling these kids you're either going to be on the football team and be great, or you're going to be on the street or in jail or just the worst thing imaginable. There is no in between where it's, yes, you can play football for now, and that can be the stepping stone for you to, get some, be grounded and really learn some discipline. And let's still further you academically. It's either you play football and then you just keep your 2.0 or 1 point, whatever the minimum, bare minimum GPA requirement is, and then that's it. And we just hope and pray that, and then we all know the statistics. I mean, not a lot of high school kids even make it to that next level. So then it's like, what are they doing this
None of
for?
them do.
They don't have any backup plan except for, I'm going to make it to the league. And no one is saying, okay, but let's really, there's other options to greatness than that. So,
Ma'am, you need to meet. I've got a senator here in Florida that's actively blocking our legislation, Corey Simon, and he has come
mm,
out saying that this is how I got out, and this is how African Americans have to get out. And he is blocking any legislation to inform parents on the risks of damage to their child's brains,
oh my
and of
God.
course, and he's involved with Pop Warner. And
Yeah.
so I'm like, come on,
Mm,
Senator Simon, I'm talking to a lobbyist, like, this is not the way out for our children. They have brains, they can use them, and they're as good a brain as God made in other, in other nationalities. So
exactly.
we need to provide these children a chance and to give them the hope where this is not the only way out. It's a fun way. Everybody likes to play sports. I'm all about it.
Yeah.
But we've got children right now playing at 6. Pop Warner is actively promoted, and PAL are only in the big cities. You don't have
Mm,
PAL in a lot of towns. And guess who plays in these leagues? Right? Our
yeah.
economically challenged citizens, and
Yeah.
they keep playing because not only are they playing, their the dads might have played, or their the dads living vicariously through them,
Yeah.
or the dads just don't know and they really don't care. It's kind of cool, right? So,
Yeah.
but I think you're absolutely on an awesome mission to educate as an African American female, that has the power and the credibility of being from that race to go ahead and educate these folks on this issue. And you're a shining example of what you can do when you understand that there is no limit, okay, that you can do what you want to do. And if it's coming
Definitely.
down to hurting your children, let's wait, let's promote flag football and all this,
Exactly.
because
Exactly.
did you have a lot of like when my son was in high school, we had female wrestlers. They were letting the girls play football. I mean, they weren't letting them play football. There are other leagues where they allow the women to play football, and I
Yeah.
mean that weight disparity, that does not sit well with me. I mean, it's
No,
what's your position on just women in these men's sports? Other than like golf, you know what I'm saying, like
yeah,
physical
no,
sports where
I know
you're
exactly.
getting a 100-pound female lining up against a 175, 200-pound man. It's just I don't think it's safe, to
No,
tell you the truth.
it's truthfully not. I mean, we can take everything, we can take the political correctness, we can take the societal things out of it. I mean, just biologically, I mean, I am 100 pounds. You would never catch me, I guess, proving a point or pursuing my passion in that way by playing up against men. If anything, I would just see it's safer. I mean, even like wrestling, I will say, for example, with wrestling, they have the weight classes, they have I wouldn't go up against a girl 2 times inside. They would put me with someone else my size for comparison. So I do understand why, and the women that are out there playing the football, the female kickers, that is so cool. That is so,
I'll
badass
give
of
you
them.
that. I'll give you that. I'll
But
give you the kicker.
me
I'll give you the kickers.
personally, I would not I just know me personally, I would not let my daughter do that. I would not let my daughter go out and risk her brain. I wouldn't let my son do it. So I don't see, if they're not playing up against, it's not a fair playing field, essentially. I mean, I don't think it's
Yeah.
fair when they have I mean, technically, I mean, even for high school, you'll have kids that are a little bit underdeveloped. They'll have the 113-pound, skinny pound, kid because in varsity because he has to be going up against players that are, again, now D1 prospects that are like 5-star athletes, 300 pounds, and they're gonna what, because of a gender thing? I mean, truthfully,
No.
in the future, in a dream world where we don't get rid of all football, we can still have it. I mean, high school football should be, instead of JV and varsity, weight class should be, kind of a limit there to say if
If
you
you
can
had
even
enough
play, if
kids.
it's even safe at that point. And the coaches straight up say, no, you can't make the team until you bulk up. But now the way things are looking, that may not be a conversation a player can have with the coach or vice versa. But I just don't think that it's safe at that point. I mean, it's not. I
No.
mean, we see the speeds that they're being hit at now, and the kids are getting bigger and bigger. With, I don't know what's in the school lunch now or what's in the milk, but these
They're
kids
hitting
don't look like
harder.
kids anymore. It's like car crashes every
No.
single day. It's insane.
My boy was lined up against guys with mustaches. I was like, dude, and they just ran over the whole team. I'm like, I said, son, what was up with number 75? He goes, Dad, that guy had a mustache, like a full one. He's like a sophomore or something, right? But so, I mean, where do you think we can start? I mean, you have identified and you vocalized a problem. This is very, very hard for most people to understand, that this is absolutely ingrained in our socioeconomically challenged communities, that this, you got to play football, whether you're black, if you're in a Latino town, or a white guy, you got to play football, you got to get out of here. And there's no really, and then because they're tough towns, they practice tough, they play all the time. And here we have the NFL, who has no practices during their football season. We have the Ivy League colleges, no practices during the contact season. Yet a lot of colleges and all of our high schools and Pop Warner practice every time they get together on the field. And then football season is 5 days a week. Why do we do this? When we have the NFL setting the example, how do we get that down in the name of, just saving brain health? What are your thoughts there?
I guess the first step with everything would just be addressing a problem and everyone being on the same page when it comes to this problem. And so if we're not all on the same page with that, really nothing will get done. So the first thing is just going to be addressing the problem. And then immediately after saying, my goal right now, I can't change the world and I'm not getting rid of football. That is with every presentation I do, I always say, I am not trying to get rid of football, because when you go into those communities, the Black community, the socioeconomic challenge communities, if your first thought is, I am smarter than you, I have these degrees, you don't, I think football's bad, I'm going to get rid of it, the very next thing they're going to do is walk away and say, this lady is not in touch. I don't care that she's my skin color. Skin folk isn't kin folk. She does not know what she's talking about, and ignore it. They're going to So first
Amen.
thing is just saying, I'm just here to educate, and I'm not trying to get rid of football, because truthfully, I've seen the good that football has had on my community. I've seen personal, people I know personally, they would not be where they are without football. And the second thing would just be education. And I say educate, the Black community specifically on these dangers at that young age. But then it immediately goes, my future physician brain and scientist brain kicks in and say, okay, well, I'm looking and I'm seeing thousands of CTE studies, but I'm not seeing that same number reflected in those marginalized groups. So then it's saying educate not those who look like me, but educating those who don't look like me, the ones that are, the higher ups that are making these decisions now, that are having the $1 billion studies right now, that are actively practicing medicine now, that are actively seeing patients who have concussions now, educating them, because they can do that right now, here and now. And then going back, kind of working in reverse, I guess, then going back and saying, okay, Black community, okay, marginalized group, okay, poor communities, here's the dangers right now. Here's what we see. Here's the data. Statistically, football is a dangerous sport. There's no just safety helmet or safety color. There's no way, truthfully, to make there's no way, truthfully, to make tackle football an entirely safe sport, because I think we've all seen that, with the safety helmets and safety collars, safer football equals harder hits. Immediately, that's just always been the correlation.
That's
We
a
get
fact. Yes,
something
ma'am.
safer, then immediately the players get bigger, the hits gets harder, to kind of prove a point. I mean, it's nothing but testosterone flowing 24/7 in these groups. It's just going to happen. We just have to be realistic with
Good point.
ourselves here. But it's then going back and saying, okay, we can't make football the safest in this way, and we can't make tackle football a safe thing. So then let's look at, okay, from these age groups, how about instead of tackle football, at such a young age, let's lean towards flag football, and then, migrate to tackle football. Just kind of giving baby steps, just kind of not breadcrumbing, but just kind of one step at a time, and kind of hand holding the entire way, and saying, okay, we won't get rid of tackle football, but let's kind of gear you towards that. When you're in tackle football, kind of fostering, and that's my goal as a future physician. I want to be able, and why I'm going into family medicine, because I want to be the doctor that fosters an environment where a player says, doc, I know this is going to be on my record. I know I may have to sit, the next few games out. I have a concussion. And then I then say, okay, let's look at it further. How many truthfully are you not telling me about? And really having that, relationship, and saying, you're not going to be in trouble, and I'm not going to stop you from playing the game, but thank you for telling me, and we'll move on from there. And that's the biggest thing we can do, is just letting them know that, at least me personally, me just letting them, in my lifetime, football's not going away. I'm not, and
It'll
just
never
knowing
go
that you
away.
can't,
It's a
yeah, you
religion.
can't change the world. Yeah. And so, because there's some scientists out there saying, okay, we're just going to get rid of football and CTE is going to be cured and it's going to be rainbows and sunshine. That is not at all the case. That will not happen anytime soon. So just saying, okay, we can't change football, but how can each step of the way we can make it safer for everyone involved? So,
For everyone. And I think,
yeah.
one of the issues that we have. So let me ask you a quick question. So, and I'll have to check the ratio of white to black in the CTE brain bank. I'm not sure
Mm-hmm.
that, but you're saying, and I've read a lot of studies, and you're right. It
Yeah.
really, I don't know. I guess they do have demographics broken out in those studies. So you're saying
Yes.
that a lot of the studies were done with higher socioeconomic football teams that don't have a higher percentage of African American athletes.
See, I can't even say it's not even that, because I mean, it's about 50-50 I think it's a little over 50-50 with the NFL and about 50-50 with NCAA. It's not that. I mean, also culturally, which is something that I'm also, one step at a time, but culturally in the Black community, it is not normal to be an organ donor. There's a very big distrust with the Black community and medicine as a whole. And so it's
Really?
not
Yeah.
normal for, Black people to sign up. Yeah, I'm going to be a brain donor. Yeah, I'm going to be an organ donor. Because a lot of it comes from the fear and the things that have happened in the past, where it's like, oh, they treated Black patients poorly
I
to
don't even
get their
think they
organs,
know.
that kind of thing. So,
Yeah. I don't
and
think
then
they even know it's an
education,
option.
they don't, I mean, it's not, I mean, other than when, that you check the box on your driver's license. But for me, I didn't know I could sign up to be a brain donor. So now I am, because they need the control brain. So my brain's going to CT research, because I won't be using it when I'm gone. But just, but even now, with my most recent study, my capstone, I was able to interview 263 athletes from across, it was 4 high schools and then 30 college institutions, D1 to D3, coast to coast. And, at the very end, it was all anonymous. But at the very end, I gave them the link to, just said, hey, even if you don't want to, just check this out. Here's how to become a brain donor when it comes to this kind of research. Because the players are passionate about it. A good amount of them, at least a good amount of them are. It's like they want to know more. They want to be, they don't want to, be a statistic or end up, like Aaron Hernandez or Antonio, but they don't want
Right.
that. That's their biggest fear. But also they don't want to stop playing. So it's just that little thing, just knowing that, okay, I can donate my brain. Because that is something, when you look at the statistic, that's something I did keep in mind. I said, okay, well, the data might not also be out there because they're not donating their brains because they don't know about it, because they don't want to. So
And
it's
I
not
think
that
that
that's a thing. So yeah,
no, the data exists that football does harm them, right? Harms everybody. There's
definitely.
no racial lines on how whose brain gets hurt more than that. I'm
Yeah.
absolutely agree with you, and I do think that the studies that have been done on repetitive head impacts. I mean, they do break it out by demographics, but they're all designed to prove that we have a problem here. As humanity, right?
Yeah.
As a society, we got a big problem. Now we look at a segment of society that is particularly challenged here. And it bothers me when I watch, the few times I'll watch a college game, and people have no idea that these young men, most of them, a lot of them, African American, depending on the university, have played football since they were 6 years old. We are in touch. I mean, I don't know if you know Ray Lewis, famous African American linebacker,
Yes.
bad dude, right? Well, his son, he lost his son, not too long ago, and
Yeah.
his wife. We were talking, and she goes, Bruce, and she's coming on the podcast, but she says, we're a football family. We started at 6. And now I have 2 more sons that I have to be concerned about because we did not know what we
Yeah.
do. And I think that, when we look at incarceration rates, right, we look at mental illness rates across America, and we start, going into these, and evaluating people for have they been exposed to this, not just contact sports, but domestic abuse, right? Family violence. Did they also box as well as play football? We
Yeah.
might have an entire and I will tell you this, we have a huge segment of our incarcerated population that's incarcerated because they are aggressive, hostile, impulsive because of contact sports. And
Mm.
I will say that right now that I don't care, what their race is, but if they started out with violence in the family, regardless of their race, and they played contact sports since they were young, and there is a good chance that, like my son, who committed suicide, that they didn't get to that point, but they're meant the activities that got them in jail could have been a result of their brain, and their brain has not been touched, they've not been assessed, and they're merely in jail because they played too much contact sports. And I
Mm.
think you're one of the, gosh, you could make such a difference spreading this message around so that, moms, right? Nobody messes with Mama Bear. I don't care how big your husband is, right? Nobody messes with Mama Bear. But we had a lady on the podcast that's talking to mothers and they're like, give me information because my husband is telling our sons they are playing football. And we need to educate these moms because they are the ones that are defending, and the dads, right? The ones that will
Yeah.
listen. But you know how crazy, people can get about these sports, man. I mean, it's
Exactly. I mean, it's like you said, it's a culture. I mean, I can't imagine going down to Texas and trying to have the same conversation that we're having now and saying, "Hey guys, stop playing football." And I know you said the age of 6, but I mean, a lot of times it starts younger. As long as they can walk, the kid can hold the football, and the kid can then
if that
like
helmet fits, they're out there playing,
exactly.
man.
I mean, it's such a crazy thing, and I'm glad you mentioned the Ray Lewis and his situation, unfortunately, with his son. I mean, I talked about the Ray Lewis, the RL3 Foundation. I talked about his foundation at my most recent
Amazing.
conference because
Tatiana's amazing.
the stuff that they're doing and the way it really stood out to me is because they're doing it for, it seems like it's really is catered towards educating the Black community. I mean, their upcoming um the upcoming activities weeks that they have, and I think the last week of May and June, they have, HBCU bands, so historically Black bands, and the Divine Nine historically Black, sororities and fraternities coming in and educating and doing things for the community. And where it is in Florida, it's like, okay, this is good, this is great stuff. But again, I found their foundation. I think I was scrolling through the Mac Parkman Foundation likes one day, and their foundation came up, and I said, "Oh, wait, who are they? I've never heard about them." So again, it was just their information just isn't out there, which really, really stinks. I mean, even right now, there's a conference going on about Black men health in football, and it's hosted, by a former NFL player in New Orleans. And I didn't even know about it until yesterday when I saw, I think Boston BU CTE Center reposted it. It's like the education's out there. People that want to talk about this kind of thing is out there. It's just getting the awareness out to everyone who needs it and the people that need the most, and then just have them turning on their listening ears, because a lot of times we're talking about it and because we're passionate about it and we know about it, and it's the people that need it the most that may just turn a blind eye. And they, because again, it's a very depressing and sobering topic, truthfully. So of course those players don't want to hear about how their brain can become a statistic, because what does that then mean for them? I mean, I feel like at that point it could lead to even identity crisis. Okay, well, this is my future. What does that mean next? I'm now freaking out about it. And how you brought up the incarcerated population again, I didn't even think of those. I mean, I didn't even think about that kind of population. And now as you brought it up, I'm like, well, the data's not out there. We need to start researching, because
We need to get in.
we need
Yeah.
to get in. And it's just, I mean, all it takes, and I think it's like this for everything in science, it just takes one person to be very, very passionate about something to really make a difference and get their voice heard. Because, I mean, all the research is out there that's came out of Boston, especially when it comes to those groundbreaking CTE studies, they were just very, very passionate about CTE. And that's great. And then you go to me, and I'm very, very passionate about this specific niche avenue
You
of CTE,
are.
because it impacts me personally. And you could tell me right now, do a paper report on lung cancer. Lung cancer sucks, and I'm gonna do it, and I want to help change it. But that's not my passion. I won't really have that drive, and so it's just gonna take more people like you and I just having that one thing, and hopefully not a personal story that really with the sad ending, but just hearing our passion through the screen and through the events that you host and the fundraising. Then they say, okay, well, I see how she's so passionate. Let me figure out why this is. Why is she just yapping for no reason? Why is she posting CCE fun facts and how to look for concussion every single day on Instagram? Why is she always wearing green? Why should she have that green pin on? Little things like that to just get people's interest peaked. So that's all
No,
we
and
can
feel
do.
free to offer up the book. We got the app now, that's
Yes.
on the Google
That
store. I mean, I know together. I mean, because we need more voices in the African American community,
yeah.
because it's muted there, and it's muted because of just the pressure to succeed. And the storylines aren't good. I don't like it. And every time I hear it, I come a little unglued. I'm like, do not talk about our children like that. I don't care
Mhm.
what color they are. They deserve the same chance. And maybe, they weren't born with a silver spoon, but that does not mean that they're got this burden that the only way out is through these contact sports, and they're going to damage the brain. And now that you know that their brain's going to damage, you're going to insist that this is their path. No, we're trying to get to Snoop Dogg right now. Snoop Dogg has a massive tackle league in
Mm.
in California, and here is a famous guy who thinks he's doing good for his community,
Mm.
and he's hurting them. And so we met with Martha Stewart. She's, I guess she's buddies with him now. So I gave her the bracelet. I was trying to get this. They haven't called me back. So if anybody knows Martha Stewart, get a hold of me. We need to talk. Lexi and I need to get with Snoop Dogg and help
Please.
him understand that there's a safer path forward. Because to your point, Lexi, it's not about banning these sports. We only want to make them safer, and they can be made safer. If we took contact out of practice and made football about fun and sportsmanship, and whoever wins wins. All right, who cares? We got out there, we got sweaty on game day, and the rest of the day we drilled. Guess what? You're not going to stop the talent that gets into the NFL. If you're
Mm-mm.
that guy, you're Deion Sanders, you're Ray Lewis, you are Lamar Jackson, you're going to the NFL, and there's not anybody that's going to stop you. And guess what? If you didn't start at 6, the fact that you're going to be in better physical condition with less injuries, less scars, and less bad habits. If you started in high school, we say 18, but we're not going to get football out of it. But if we got football to say, no more practice, just like the NFL in high school. Flag till 14, 4 years of no contact practice. Guess what? These guys are going to get drafted. They can learn how to play in the NCAA, and then they're going to be stars in the NFL. They're going to make all this bling, and we're not going to have the tragedies that we have. I mean, the percentage of football players
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Unless they're quarterbacks or kickers, right? That are suffering from mental illness right now is true. If you heard Mike McGlynn at our thing,
Yeah.
90% of his friends are a mess. And it's just doesn't have to be this way. And I'm so glad that you're speaking out on this because we need
Thank
more
you.
voices, man. We do.
Thank you. Because even when you say like the NCAA now, you think especially now they have NIL deals brought into everything where
Good Lord.
these 17-year-olds. I mean, Alabama's quarterback. I mean, what, seven? I think he just turned 18. Like what, his first semester. He's walking around with the same chain that Jalen Hurts is kind of wearing, making these millions as a kid. I mean, he's a baby. And then I'm thinking, like, I'm seeing, the TikTok edits and how great he is. I'm thinking, he's a baby. Like, he is 17 years. Like, he can't even vote. He's a child. And I can't imagine
Or
the
drink.
pressure that he has on him. Or drink. Exactly. I mean, I can't imagine when the pressure he may have on him to be that young and to be kind of the face of the dynasty now that, their coach is gone, just so much pressure. And then also, I mean, I talked about this in my last presentation, one of the pressures they have is the fact that if you are a star player, like say Jalen Hurts somehow gets a concussion between now and Sunday, they're not going to practice. But say, first quarter, Jalen Hurts, not even, because again, they can't diagnose a concussion on the field, but say he gets a nasty hit and he's not laid out like Tua, he's able to get off and walk it off. They're not going to take Jalen Hurts out of the game on Super Bowl
No.
Sunday.
How many times
Even
has
though,
Patrick Mahomes been jammed on the field in a playoff game
I
and was
mean,
allowed to keep playing, right?
exactly. I mean, even
All the time.
Tua. I mean, I'm a Dolphins fan myself, and so seeing Tua say in that press conference, I would die on the field." I was like, "Tua, we know this. We have almost seen it a
Yeah.
few times. We've seen you take those hits where surgeons are going on CNN the next day saying that is not normal." And then they have this conversation after a big hit, after a big play, and then it's okay. We have the doctors come on the news, and then that's it. And then they just wait until it happens again, and that should not be the case.
No.
Because what does this mean for our kids, or the kids that are watching us at home? Yeah, we saw him get that bad hit. He got back up and he was allowed to come back the next game, or he was allowed to get back up and play the rest of the game. I mean, what kind of message is that really sending? And so, and yes, it does start with the NFL, but we've also known historically the NFL has not been great when it's
Is
come
a
to
business.
listening
The
to the real
NFL is
data.
a business, and it's horrible what they do to these football players. They groom them, they take care of them, and they get them in the sport, and then when they're done, they're just discarded, man. I
They
mean,
are
they need to do a much better job recognizing the damage that sport
a
causes
thousand
these young men.
1,000%. But I mean, once you recognize that sport, again, what is that going to mean? So we can say right now, say there's a magic brain scan that comes out today telling the NFL players, hey, if you take this brain scan, we would tell you right now how bad if you have CTE, how bad it is, and what this means for the rest of your life. Do you think those players are going to do it? Or do you think they're going to say, what's
No.
in the dark should just
I've
stay
got
in the
friends
dark,
that
and
have
I'd
reached
rather
out to
know?
NFL players to
So
go through brain treatment, and they don't even want to get scanned. They don't want to
exactly,
know because they're
exactly,
they're committed. They have to. They're on this plan. They've got to give. They've given it all. But you know what, Lexi? What you and I are talking about is that football can be made safe, and it's not going to be
yes,
helmets. It's not going to
no,
be gizmos. It's not going to
no,
be nothing more than reducing the total amount of exposure that these young kids have from their
exactly,
early age until they die. And that's it.
exactly,
That's the only thing that we can do to make the sport safer. And that
yeah,
means just it's not about winning. It's going to be about practicing and having fun as a team. My son played sports to be with other boys and have fun. He didn't play to win. He lost most of his wrestling match, but he gave it his all, man. I mean, he was in there but the coach put him against these big kids, whatever, right? But my boy was in there with heart. But
yeah,
his fun was being on the school bus going to a match or hanging out with these guys and wearing the shirts to school, right? With the
yeah,
with the ties and all that stuff and being
yeah,
one of the boys, right? That's why these kids play. They don't play to get hurt. And we've got to stop this. And where the messaging is poor, like if in our African American communities, in our Latino communities, in our poor white communities, same message
yeah,
goes on. But it's more prolific in African American communities, I do believe, because I keep hearing it over and over again. It's our only way out. And I'm like, I'm done with this. It is not. You are not going to denigrate these young souls. You're not going to, enslave them to a life, to a sport that's going to harm them only because
exactly.
you feel that they cannot
They can
become a
do
doctor, lawyer, architect, or whatever. That's crud.
exactly,
So that's what I
exactly.
would like to see. And I think you're going to be the voice that carries that message. I absolutely believe this. So tell us a little bit about where you at right now with your
So
research studies. What are you planning to present? I think you should probably get a spot at the Mac Parkman conference this year. But this is amazing. So what's going on with Lexi Alston right now?
So thank you so much. So recently, like I said, I finished my capstone. And so my capstone, which is one of the hardest things I think I've ever done, because I decided to start my research where I was able to talk to, almost 300 football players from coast to coast. I started in August. I finished August. I started in August of 24, and then I was able to finish December of last year. Why I decided to start in August? I thought that was me getting ahead of the curve. And then I remembered the football season and the timeline. And so you can imagine it was a lot of no's, a lot of ignoring, and also a lot of the programs themselves wouldn't reach out. So it then took me to DM and email. I mean, thousands of football players. So I'm glad I was single at the time, because my DMs on Instagram, my emails, I mean, it was just verified checks and, hey, I'm Alexis. This is what I want to do. Please get back to me. And a lot of yeses, and then a lot of, hey, I don't want to do research, but so it was a fun time, very hard time, but it was fun. And so I was able to recently present the students for Student National Medical Association, or SNMA. It's a national organization basically helping and creating a platform and environment for future Black and Brown and underrepresented minorities in medicine. And so they had our regional conference last weekend where I was able to present at the University of Virginia, and I won the poster for best pre-med poster, which
Good
again, I was
job.
not expecting at all. It was just one of those things where I didn't think I was doing the most, or doing, I didn't think I was extraordinary, but I do believe that my passion about what I was talking about kind of, shined through, and I was able to answer all the questions. And so in April, yeah, it's February now. In April, I'll be going to the national convention in St. Louis, and I'll be presenting again that research, just highlighting, those disparities from what I found personally with the data I was able to collect, and be able to present, with other Black and Brown doctors, specifically, family medicine doctors. And I had a lot of people come up to me at the end of this last conference, asking, do you want to do neurology? Do you want to, focus, on, psychology? Like, what do you want to do? Do you want to do neurosurgery? And I was thinking, well, no, I mean, those fields are great, and I love the academic side, but at the end of the day, I want to be a doctor to help people and see the change I'm making in those day-to-day lives. And I know that, with family medicine, one, there's not a lot of family medicine doctors anyway, but with family medicine,
Not
I can
anymore.
see my players and the patients I'm seeing over time. They can come to me, when they're not playing tackle football, hopefully by the time I'm practicing medicine at the age of 6, so I can see them at 6, and then at 12, and at college level, and just see them throughout their lives, and see, and also just have that documentation. Well, they're acting very strange versus before. So that's what's going on for me. And of course, if the spot is open, I would love to talk and
Uh,
speak and at the
I
Mac
think
Parkman
Yeah,
conference in
yeah, we
September.
should.
Very
Well, we're
exciting.
definitely going to have a
Um,
poster presentation this year.
oh,
So at a
yes,
minimum,
that's
but
exciting.
love to have you, maybe on a
Yes.
panel or come down
Yes.
and talk
Yeah.
about this because you're very passionate. You're obviously researching. We need this new generation. I mean, we need, a younger generation. All the researchers are getting on. They're thinking about retiring. Me, I still got decades on
Yeah.
this one,
You
man. I'm
still
not
got
giving
it.
up. And
You're not
and it's
giving
going
up.
to take folks like you, Lexi, to pick up the torch and keep it going. So I cannot
Thank
thank you
you.
enough for coming on this program. God
Thank
bless you.
you.
God bless you on your journey.
Thank
And I
you.
wish you
Thank
all the
you.
luck. And please stay in touch with the foundation. You are an amazing young woman with an amazing message that this world needs to hear. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to keep following the foundation and making everyone I know about the foundation. Guys, it's February is CTE Education Awareness Month. So please stay, in contact, stay up to date, because the data is out there, is growing. So just thank you so much.
Absolutely. And great closing message. And for all you out there, don't forget that we do have a free book, Youth Contact Sports and Broken Brains, that you need to read. Download it from our website. We have the Head Smart app now on the Google and Apple store. Go out there and get that. Educate yourself. Remember, the second International Conference on Repetitive Brain Trauma will be held in Tampa this September. Dates to be announced. We're going to have a town hall for veterans here in March, and we're going to start doing seminars for NFL players and for military veterans to educate them on this issue so they can make better decisions about what to do, because what they don't know is they can be healed. There is a path back from the damage done by football and all these sports. And we're seeing it with veterans. We're seeing it with these ballers. We can get them back, and they need that message of hope. And that's what we're going to start offering them. So thank you thank you so much for paying another attention to another episode of Broken Brains. This is Bruce Parkman signing off. We'll see you soon. God bless you all. Take care. Lexi, you...